Hi everyone, this is John with the Abada Solutions team, and this is the second video in our series explaining how to create a fixed asset depreciation schedule using Alteryx. To begin, open a new workflow in Alteryx. In order to pull data into Alteryx, you need to use an input data tool. We're going to go to the toolbar and drag our input data tool onto the canvas. We'll then select the drop-down menu on the configuration. We'll select the drop-down arrow, on the configuration window. We'll navigate to Files on the left and select File. We're going to choose one of the Excel sheets from the dataset that you're able to download. If you haven't previously, it is in the description to this video. We're going to choose Depreciation Dataset, just the regular one, and we're going to select Open because we want to pull information from this Excel workbook into our Alteryx workflow. We are going to choose Sheet Fed Depreciation because that is where our dataset lies. Once you select it, you can press OK, and you'll notice the configuration window on the left will update once we do so, and you'll see a preview of the data in the configuration window. Now, to modify this data, we're going to go back up to the toolbar, select the Preparation tab, and choose the Select tool, the tool with the check mark. Drag it onto the canvas close to the Input Data tool, and you'll see it automatically connects. We're going to use this tool to redo the type and size of some of the columns from our worksheet. First, choose tax year and change it to V string and size 255. Next, repeat this for system number and once again for asset ID. Changing the data types and the size will allow us to modify this data easier in our Alteryx workflow so that way we can produce the results we are looking for. We can also change this data type back at the end of our workflow, and you'll see that we do for some of these particular ones. Once again, navigate to the toolbar and choose the Formula tool. Drag it onto the canvas so it connects to the Select tool. The Formula tool will allow us to change our data by creating new columns or changing current columns. Navigate to Output Column and choose Add a Column. We are going to name this new column New Asset ID, and we are going to be taking the entity number from our Excel file and the asset ID provided by our Excel file and combining them into a new column which will appear in the table. Again, choose data type vstring and size 255. The reason for this formula is because sometimes multiple entities may have the same asset ID number, and we want to see if those are truly duplicates or not. So to create our formula, we are going to first do entity, which is going to take all information from the column entity for a particular row, and then we're going to plus sign, quotation, dash, quotation, plus asset ID. So we're going to add the two together into our new column, which is titled New Asset ID. If you run the workflow, which you can do by clicking Run on the top right, or by pressing Control R, and then clicking the right anchor tool from the formula, we'll look at our table here in the bottom, and you'll see entity number, asset ID, and if we go all the way to the right is our newly created column, New Asset ID, which combines them into one result. And this is going to help us answer question 1, which is to pull out all duplicate data sets. In order to do that, we're going to use another tool from the Preparation tab, which is called the Unique tool. It is the last one on the right on the Preparation tab. If you go, you can click it and drag it onto the canvas. This tool has two output anchors, a U and a D. The U produces all unique results, and the D produces all duplicate results from the data set. We just need to choose which column we're looking for duplicates in. So if we scroll to the bottom here, we're going to choose our newly created New Asset ID column. Once again, we're going to run the workflow. Once we have done that, we're going to click the D tab to see a preview of all the duplicate results. Here we can see asset IDs by their duplicate results. Now, if we go back to the tools, we can choose the Transform tab and drop a Summarize tool to connect to the Unique tool. If we choose New Asset ID, we can group by New Asset ID here. The Summarize tool works sort of like a pivot table in Excel. Once again, I'm going to run the workflow just to demonstrate how it works, and you'll see the input anchor shows our full table with all of the information. But because in our Summarize tab, we only chose to group by New Asset ID, all we're getting here is just the duplicate asset ID numbers, which we can then share with the CFO if we want, or we can do this. We can navigate to the Join tab and drag a Join tool onto the table and connect it on the right side to the Summarize and on the left to the Unique. We're going to join our columns, create a new data set by the new asset ID number. So when the new asset ID number matches on the left and the right, the data in those rows will be joined together. We're going to uncheck the right new asset ID because it's a duplicate that's not going to be necessary. Again, I'm going to run the workflow. And if you click in the middle, there's the J anchor, which shows you all of your joined data. So now we have all of the various columns connected to the data set, which we know is a duplicate data. The left one here shows us all are unique. It solely pulls data from the left tab. So those are all unique ones, which we'll use later. Next, we are going to go back up to the toolbar and select the Union tool. We're going to drag it onto the canvas and connect it to the J anchor from the Join tool. We are also going to connect it from the D output anchor of the Unique tool. The Union tool will ensure that all instances of the duplicate data are output into our Excel file. Next, we are going to connect a Sort tool to the Union tool. We're going to sort by new asset ID, and we'll leave it ascending. We're going to then choose a Select tool so we can modify some of the data. Actually, we're going to look at it here. I'm not sure that anything does need to be modified. We're taking a check. We'll uncheck the asset ID because we don't need that anymore since we created a new one. So we're going to rename our new asset ID, so that way there's no confusion as to what it is and we don't have an unnecessary duplicate. We'll drag that up, and this will just reorganize where it is in the table. It's not necessary, but I like to do it. Next, go back to the toolbar and drag an Output Data tool onto the canvas. You're going to click the drop down, you're going to navigate to the file, select file. I'm going to create a new file here just for purposes of demonstration, but you should write to the output file that we have put into the download folder. And then specify a sheet. I'm going to name this question 1 since the information we're outputting answers question 1 of our problem set. Click OK. We're going to go to the left in the configuration window and choose to override exit sheet or range. This way, we know every time we run our workflow, the data that is pushed out to the Excel file will be what matches the information put into this particular run. Once again, I'm going to run my Alteryx workflow, and you'll see a new file has appeared on my desktop named test. If I open this up, we will see a sheet called question 1, and we will see all of the information from our table related to our duplicate assets. As you can see, there are multiple copies of each asset listed in this chart. You can share this with the CFO and they can determine what caused this error. And that concludes our second video in our series explaining how to produce a fixed asset depreciation schedule using Alteryx. Be sure to check back for our next video. Thank you and have a great day.